When he watched the giant spaceship fly away in the clouds, he raised his head and drank the mysterious liquid. A sudden pain, and the man's body begins to disintegrate. A black mass appeared, like a swarm of living bees disintegrating the giant. Then his limbs break and he falls into the deep abyss of a waterfall. A spaceship is flying at high speed. Inside the spacious ship, only the biochemical man David is monitoring the vessel. As the destination, planet LV-223, is reached, a group of people wake up from the sleeping cabin and simply replenish their energy. Elizabeth Shaw and Charlie Holloway reveal the purpose of this mission: to explore the ultimate question of humanity. Where do humans come from? When the spaceship schemes through the clouds, everything here is so beautiful. When coming to the planet at this position, Holloway, as a researcher, told him directly, it is impossible for nature to form such a neat arrangement. When the spaceship landed here, they couldn't wait to start this expedition. When the group arrived at this cave-like place, they also stepped into the abyss of death. Fifield used an electronic dog to draw the topographic map here, through the geographic imagery receiver on the spaceship. Little did they know, the final result left them horrified. However, mysteriously, Holloway discovered that there seemed to be a photosynthetic device here. The oxygen content is even better than that on Earth. Elizabeth Shaw strongly advised against it, but Holloway still took off his helmet. Seeing that Holloway was fine, they relaxed their guard. David is fluent in various languages, so he tried to decipher these symbols, and successfully unlocked the holographic image. After a howl, an image resembling a video playback flashed in the distance. It seems that these people are avoiding something. They are bewildered by this sudden situation and can only keep up with the image. But when the giant came to the floodgates, he fell down. Through measurements, it is determined that the body has been dead for at least 2,000 years. Before everyone can react, David opens the temple gate, the huge head and the bottles all over the floor. Everyone was stunned by all this. More magically, this enormous head appears as if freshly deceased. Little did they know that their arrival also altered the atmospheric conditions here. The insects beneath Holloway's feet, the black water flowing from the bottle. It can be proved that it has been dusty for 2,000 years. However, with their arrival, the murals in the temple also underwent changes. Behind head portrait, Holloway discovers a massive mural. While everyone marveled at the wonders brought by this temple, Yannick informed them of an impending ion storm. The team members quickly evacuated, racing against time, but in the moment of boarding, the head was blown away by the wind. As a scientific researcher, Elizabeth Shaw risked her life to retrieve the fallen head. Yet, the violent storm blew her away. Holloway turned around to rescue his girlfriend, but the powerful gusts of wind blew him and his car down. At this time, as a biochemical man, David came to the rescue regardless of his own safety. Elizabeth Shaw expresses her gratitude to David. However, David states that it is his duty to do so. Later, Elizabeth Shaw examines the head that she brought back after all the hardships. However, through scanning, it was found that it was not a skull. At that moment, David approached and took a look. Elizabeth Shaw advised him to be careful. However, David disdainfully stated, "I have always been careful." Calm David took off the giant's armor. A massive head appeared before everyone's eyes. Then Elizabeth Shaw proposed to do electrotherapy with stem cell population implantation, make the nervous system think that the ontology is still alive. Hope to continue presenting his previously living reactions. As the electric current increased, the head displayed a pained expression. With a loud bang, the head exploded, splattering brain matter everywhere. Facing this sudden turn of events, everyone felt disappointed. At this time, David said intriguingly that he was just a mortal. These two scientists lost their way due to leaving the team early. A pile of giant corpses was accidentally found on the road. At this moment, Yannick informed them that the probe dog in the northwest direction seemed to have detected signs of life. However, the two individuals, who were not interested in these findings, chose the opposite route. Unfortunately, they still ended up at the temple where the previous team had arrived. Suddenly, the biologist discovered a creature resembling a butterfly snake. Its peculiar appearance caught his attention. Suddenly, the butterfly snake tightly coiled around his arm. In pain, he cried out and asked for Fifield's help, but both seemed to have underestimated the little guy's abilities. David took out the bottle brought back from the temple and dripped a drop on his fingertips. At this moment, David approached Holloway. "How much are you willing to give for your answer?" "I'll do whatever it takes." David firmly drops the drop of black water from his finger into Holloway's wine. During a conversation between Holloway and Elizabeth Shaw, Holloway became convinced that this place was nothing more than a tomb, not the engineer's home. Elizabeth Shaw informed them that their speculation was correct. The engineers created humanity. Gives Holloway the DNA for comparison, but at this moment, he no longer felt the excitement he had when he first arrived. Seeing an engineer can't escape the fate of death, he believed that creating life was nothing more than a sequence of DNA. However, this sentence deeply hurt Elizabeth Shaw, because she couldn't create life herself. Holloway realized he had said the wrong thing and approached her to comfort her. Holloway stood in front of the mirror, in a daze. He seemed to see something in his eyes, but Yannick interrupted him and told them to find the two lost scientists. As they left, David gave Holloway a meaningful look. When the team arrived at the cave, Elizabeth Shaw noticed that something was off with Holloway. However, at that moment, he remained completely unaware. As they entered the temple, they discovered the biologist. Something appeared to be moving inside his throat. Everyone was startled by this butterfly snake. Things are getting worse in Holloway. His body underwent significant changes. The group quickly retreated from the area, staggering he can no longer take care of himself. David on the other side did not keep up with the crowd. Instead, he ventured alone to the location where the electronic dog detected signs of life. Countless black water bottles are densely stacked here. 2 rows of armor stood in precise formation. Upon reaching the control room, David unintentionally triggered a holographic image. Immersed in this spectacle, David marveled at its beauty. As the globe disappeared, the vast control room returned to its lifeless state. As the holographic projection faded away, David also noticed a sleeping engineer. Excitedly, David approached the sleep compartment. Meanwhile, Holloway's infection grew increasingly severe. The agonizing screams pierced Elizabeth Shaw's heart. Upon reaching the spaceship, Meredith Vickers strongly opposed Holloway's entry. Charlie Holloway, in a moment of vulnerability, whispered "I love you" to Elizabeth Shaw. He then fell under Vickers' flamethrower. After returning to the spaceship, David conducted examinations on everyone who returned. However, he unexpectedly discovered that Elizabeth Shaw was pregnant. Elizabeth Shaw was surprised, because she can't bear children. At this point, Elizabeth Shaw wanted to check on the fetus. David, however, said this fetus could be different. You need to be frozen first and then processed on the Earth. Upon hearing this, Elizabeth Shaw grew more suspicious. Before she could resist, she was given a sleeping injection by David and fell asleep. Meanwhile, through surveillance, they saw Fifield's helmet. Camera shows just outside the boat. The crew members who were unaware of the situation saw it and were killed without a chance to react. At this time, the mutated Fifield moves swiftly. The jumping ability is greatly enhanced, and the bloodthirsty is extremely strong. The crew members fell victim to his attacks. Yannick took matters into his own hands and used a flamethrower to burn him. Elizabeth Shaw can't have children, but she has sex with others. Within a few hours, she found herself 3 months pregnant. She endured severe pain to reach the medical room. It was a male medical pod, yet she underwent abdominal surgery. When the foreign object was removed, Elizabeth Shaw looks at the creature taken out and she doesn't expect it. A sudden movement caught her off guard. Stumbling, she unexpectedly found herself in Peter Whalen's chamber. To her surprise, the man who claimed to be dead was standing right in front of her. Faced with her current situation and the loss of her loved one, she was in great pain. She had come to realize that this place was not the engineer's home, but a tomb. And David said that there is one engineer who is dormant. Although Elizabeth Shaw was a little shocked, she was disheartened at this time. Whalen then said, "Don't you want to hear what your creator has to say? Have you lost your faith? What would your love Holloway do if he was alive?" As Elizabeth Shaw prepared to leave with the ring of her loved one, Elizabeth Shaw asked David a question that exposed David's desire for freedom and his own pursuit. On the way to meet the engineers, everyone took off their masks. When David awakened the engineer and sought to help Wayland inquire about the secret of immortality, but now see the engineer wake up. Elizabeth Shaw questioned the engineer, but the impatient Wayland wants to ask the way of immortality. Engineer looks at David, then attacks. Elizabeth Shaw quickly fled upon witnessing this. At this time, the engineer didn't care so much, so he turned on the driver to complete the unfinished mission, carrying death to the Earth. Elizabeth Shaw, who survived the disaster, saw that the Prometheus was also leaving. Frantically, she pleaded with Yannick to find a way to stop the engineer's ship. Yannick made a bold decision. Without hesitation, he crashed into the Devil full of death. The massive alien spacecraft plummeted from the sky upon impact. The two on the ground looked at the huge spaceship at a loss. They had no choice but to escape for their lives. A tripped Elizabeth Shaw dodges the ship's drop point. However, Vickers, solely focused on escaping, wasn't as fortunate. The moment the spaceship falls, Elizabeth Shaw narrowly escaped the catastrophe, but in her despair, she cried as her beliefs crumbled. Faced with the warning of depleting oxygen, she came to the rescue cabin to find the oxygen tank, but a loud noise caught her attention. It turned out her child was still inside the escape pod. At that moment, David informed her via radio that the engineer was searching for her. Came to the rescue cabin, engineer grabbed her by the neck. In the nick of time, she opened the floodgates. Massive tentacles tightly entwined the engineer. Engineer struggles but loses to creature's strength, turns into xenomorph. Finally, Elizabeth Shaw and David piloted the ship towards the engineer's homeworld.